Elasticity. Why some prices hurt more than others. In our previous lessons, we explored how the supply and demand curves intersect to find a market equilibrium. We saw how prices adjust to clear the market and how surpluses and shortages push the price toward a point of balance. However, as an aspiring financial analyst and entrepreneur, John needs to know more than just the direction of price changes. He needs to know the magnitude. If John raises the price of his custom keyboards by 10%, will he lose 2% of his customers or 60%? This difference is the difference between a successful business strategy and a total financial collapse. In this lesson, we dive into the concept of elasticity. According to Gregory Mankiw, elasticity is a measure of how much buyers and sellers respond to changes in market conditions. It allows us to analyze supply and demand with much greater precision by quantifying the responsiveness of the market. We begin with the price elasticity of demand. This measures how much the quantity demanded of a good responds to a change in the price of that good. It is calculated as the percentage change in quantity demanded divided by the percentage change in price. If the quantity demanded changes substantially in response to a small price change, we say the demand is elastic. If the response is slight, the demand is inelastic. For John, understanding why certain goods are more elastic than others is crucial. There are 4 primary determinants he must consider. First is the availability of close substitutes. If John's keyboards are the only ones on the market with a specific ergonomic design, his customers have no choice but to pay his price. His demand is inelastic. But if there are dozens of other brands offering similar keyboards, a small price hike will send his customers running to his competitors, meaning his demand is highly elastic. The second determinant is whether the good is a necessity or a luxury. John's morning coffee might be a necessity. Even if the price rises, he will likely still buy it, making his demand inelastic. However, a high-end mechanical keyboard is a luxury. If the price gets too high, John can easily decide he doesn't really need it, making demand elastic. Third is the definition of the market. Narrowly defined markets, like custom cherry blue switch keyboards, tend to have more elastic demand than broadly defined markets like electronics, because it is easier to find substitutes for a specific item. Finally, there is the time horizon. Goods tend to have more elastic demand over longer time periods. If the price of gasoline rises today, John might still have to drive to work. But over the next year, he might buy a more fuel-efficient car or move closer to his office, showing a much greater response to the price change over time. For John as a business owner, the most important application of elasticity is its relationship to total revenue. Total revenue is the amount paid by buyers and received by sellers, calculated as the price of the good times the quantity sold. John might think that raising prices always leads to more money, but elasticity proves this is not always true. If John's keyboard demand is inelastic, a price increase leads to a proportionately smaller decrease in quantity demanded, so total revenue rises. But if his demand is elastic, a price increase leads to a proportionately larger decrease in quantity demanded, and his total revenue will actually fall. This is a vital lesson for John's corporate finance strategy. He cannot simply raise prices to increase profits without first measuring the elasticity of his customer base. If he ignores this, he might price himself right out of the market. We must also look at the supply side, the price elasticity of supply. This measures how much the quantity supplied responds to a change in price. Just like demand, supply is elastic if producers can easily change the amount they produce, and inelastic if production levels are difficult to adjust. For John's keyboard business, if he has plenty of spare parts and can easily hire temporary workers, his supply is elastic. He can quickly ramp up production if prices rise. However, if he relies on a rare, handcrafted wooden case that takes months to carve, his supply is inelastic. He cannot produce more keyboards quickly, no matter how much the price rises. The key determinant here is flexibility. Firms that can easily switch their production lines or increase their capacity have more elastic supply. And just like demand, supply is usually more elastic in the long run because firms have more time to build new factories or exit the market entirely. Finally, John should be aware of other types of elasticity that economists use to predict market shifts. Income elasticity of demand measures how much the quantity demanded changes as John's income changes. This helps John categorize goods as normal or inferior. There is also cross-price elasticity of demand, which measures how the quantity demanded of one good changes as the price of a different good changes. If the price of high-end gaming mice rises and John sees a drop in his keyboard sales, he knows these goods are complements. If a rise in the price of a competitor's keyboard leads to more sales for John, he knows they are substitutes. By mastering all these forms of elasticity, John gains a three-dimensional view of the market. He no longer sees prices as static numbers, but as dynamic levers that he can pull to optimize his business. He understands that the pain of a price increase is not uniform. It depends on the options available to the buyer and the flexibility of the seller. This quantitative approach to market dynamics is what will allow John to navigate complex financial landscapes with the confidence of an Ivy League expert. He now knows not just that the market moves, but by how much it will move when the winds of the economy shift.